Hello everybody, welcome to this video. Okay, so sometimes you just want to compile a short little program and you don't want to mess around with Visual Studio and or create a formal project, and so I'd like to show you how to do that. It's very simple, as long as you've got the .NET framework installed, which I assume that you do. If you installed Visual Studio, you certainly do have it installed. Okay, so what you'll need to do is you'll need to have a command prompt, right? You're going to use a command prompt to do the compiling. But most importantly, you need to make sure that your environment variables are set. So there's a video that I have posted called Setting Environment Variables in Windows 10. It's kind of similar to Windows 7. So if you don't know how to set your environment variables in order to point your system to the .NET Framework folder location, then watch that video, because I'm not going to go through the whole environment variable setup. But I will locate where the csc executable file is. CSC stands for the C# compiler. So we go to Windows, and we're going to scroll down to Microsoft.NET. Okay, Framework 64. And then here's all the versions that are installed for this on this computer. Okay, so you scroll down in this V0 V4.0.30319 folder, and I'm pretty sure there's a newer version of the .NET framework than this one, but that's okay. You don't have to have always the latest and greatest. And we're looking for csc.exe, which is right here. So let me scroll down just a little bit more. So anyway, this has to be in your path, that location to that CSC executable, and that's why you need to set your environment variables. Now you can test them once they're set by just entering, go open up your command prompt, right? If it was open, if this command prompt was open when you set your environment variables, you need to close it and then open it once again. Okay, and that makes sure that they're set. Okay, next thing you need to do is put your project someplace. So I have a projects folder here on my desktop, and I'm going to create a folder in that projects folder called, I guess I'll go test. Okay, and then I'm going to change to that directory, right? Quick way to do that is just go back up to your folder, your command line, and type cd, change directory, and then come over here and just drag this folder right there. Bam! Now I'm in the test folder. All right, you can keep that open kind of over here. I'll make it a little bit smaller. That way we can see the files when we create them. Okay, bring this down. Now, you'll need a text editor. All right, so I use Notepad++. All right. I'll clear out all those old things I was working on. Notepad++ is an excellent text editor, and even if you use Visual Studio, it's still great to have a great text editor to pull up and edit stuff. And Notepad++, I've paid for it a couple times. I think it's 25 bucks. You don't have to pay for it. They give it away for free. But it's such a great program that it's one of those programs where you just feel like, you know what, those guys are doing such a great job. Here's my money, because keep up the good work. And I feel like I get every ounce of my money's worth. So if you use Notepad++, my plug for those guys is, and I'm not associated with them, donate. Pay them some money. I mean, that's a good deal. Okay, keep those open source programmers working, because it doesn't cost you a lot, and you'll use the heck out of it. And it comes with, I mean, you know, you get free updates, right? Every time it updates, you get it. All right, so that was my plug for that. So in order to program from the command line or compile programs from the command line, you really only need, to summarize, three things, right? You need the .NET framework installed on your computer, and with it comes the CSC executable. Now, newer versions of .NET, I think you have to download the compiler separately, but for the most part, I got .NET 4.5 or 4.6 or whatever installed on this Windows 10 VM, and and I have everything I need, right? You need a text editor, Notepad++. You need to set your environment variable so that when you issue the command line compiler command from the command line, and I'll do that right now, csc, right? You just type that. And that says, oh, right, look, I found the command, but there was no input source files. All right, so that's working. And then you need a class to compile, or you need a source file to compile, and that's what we need the text editor for. So I'm just going to create a hello world class, right? A hello world, or a program that prints hello world. So in order to, at the most basic, if you're just starting out, right? If you're just starting out with C#, the most basic program you're going to write is just everything has to be in a class, and an executable program has to have a main method. All right, so this is, I'd say this is the canonical entry first program that you write in C#, right? It's going to look like this, very simple. You start off with the using statement, using system. Now the purpose of the using statement or the using system is to provide shortcut naming. We're not including anything. It's not like C or C++ where we have include statements. We're not including header files. We are saying use that namespace, which is system. Okay. And where do you get all the information for the different namespaces and what's included? Internet. Right? Just pull up a browser. Right? I'm not a big fan of Bing, but go to Google. Okay. And type in system namespace. Just like that. All right. And then the first one that pops up, 9 times out of 10, if you're looking for something in the C#.NET API, then it's the first thing that pops up. And the way that you can tell you're not clicking on a bogus link is it'll say https://msdn.microsoft.com. It'll start with that, right? You don't usually want to go anywhere unless you're going to what's that place? Stack Overflow, right? Those guys are the bomb on Stack Overflow. If you have questions about stuff, Stack Overflow is the place to go. Okay, so system namespace. To get information on system namespace, you click on that link. That pulls up the Microsoft.NET API, right? Anything you need information on, you can click on it, right? Get more information on the classes, fields, delegates, interfaces that belong there, right? But anyway, enough of that. All right, so using system. So I'll show you what that does for us. All right, now we're going to declare a class. So public class, and I'm going to say test class. Open brace, closing brace. Now, in order for this class to run like a program and execute, we need a main method, and it's generally like this. Public static void capital M. Okay. Open brace, closing brace. For you Java programmers out there who are coming to C# and learning C#, the similarities will be maddening and the differences will make you pull your hair out. So this is a capital M, not a lowercase m like in Java. Okay, so now we're just going to print out to the console, hello world. So console.writeLine, okay, and then string, hello world. Just like that, exclamation point. And then we terminate that line with a semicolon. Now we're going to save this file. So save as, and as long as you save it with a CS suffix, you're fine, right? But there's also a C# source file selection in the save as file type. So hit, I'm going to make sure I change where I'm saving this. All right, projects, test, and the name of this is going to be test class.cs. There we go. So notice when I saved it, it did syntax highlighting. So all these in blue, all these keywords in blue, well, all these words in blue are they're called reserved keywords. All right, using, public, class, static, void. Right, those you usually can't use those in your program unless you do some special trick with them. All right, but I just avoid using them, period. Okay, so this using system, if we were to comment that out, then we would have to put system down here. And that's all using is doing for us in this case. It's preventing us from having to do this all the time. You know, system. This is called fully qualified. This is the fully qualified version of this WriteLine method. All right, system.console.WriteLine. But when we type using system up here at the beginning of the code, it says, you know, what this says is like we're using system, so anything within the system namespace, we just go ahead and access it. Console.WriteLine. So shortcut naming to the whatever the objects are, or the members of that namespace. Save the file. Now we can close our text editor here, and we can go to our directory, which we should already be there, and type dir. So when you're programming from the command or compiling programs from the command line, and as a developer in general, you need to develop some command line skills, I guess I would say. You'll need a handful of command line commands like dir for directory, right? That kind of stuff. CLS, clear screen, all right? dir again. Okay, so what we see here is, let me highlight it. In that directory, we have test class.cs. Now we can compile that. So the way that we compile it is we type csc space, so csc for the compiler, and we can do star.cs, which would compile everything in that directory with a cs suffix, or we can type test class.cs to compile just that file. Okay, now we've compiled it. If there were any errors, they would show up here, and I'll put an error in there in a second. But let's take a look. Directory, and we can also just check it out over here. Right now we have an executable. If you double click the executable, watch this. Boom, you see that? I'll do that again. So the program, all the program does is, we go back to the code. The program runs because it has a main method in it, and it prints out this hello world to the console, and then it immediately ends. Okay, so the console is going to go away. So if you want to see this execute, all right, let's minimize this. Type it from the command line, execute it from the command line. So we'll type in test. Just type in test class, right? Or you can type in test class.exe. You don't need the exe, right? You're going to execute it without the exe. So we executed the file or the program. It printed out hello world right there, and then it immediately exited and returned us to the command prompt. If you want to execute it and have it pause, right, you'd have to go back to the code. And we can do a read line. Like that. And what that does, it'll pause until you actually hit enter. So let's recompile the program. Let's do, and that fast way to recompile is just do, you got the key up and the key down. So if you do up arrow, it'll repeat your commands, right? That's another nice trick for the command prompt, or using the command window. So here I'm just going to compile it again. Boop. And I'm going to run it again. So I go down and hit test class. Now notice this time I don't get returned to the command prompt right away. My cursor is waiting right there. So so let's take a look at this. I'm going to hit enter. Now my prompt is back, right? So comparison, let's just double click the executable. Now see my executable kind of hangs there. So the program prints hello world and then just waits for the entry, right? Now we hit return. So compiling. Now let me put an error in. How do you handle errors, right? Or what do errors look like? So let's put one in. Let's do this. Let's get rid of that, and let's just. I'm just going to get rid of that semicolon. Hit save. Now I'm going to compile again, and it should give me an error. Okay, so right here is our error. It says test class CS. Now it'll say 6,38. What does that mean? Line 6 and then position 38. All right, it should be a semicolon. Some errors like this one are easy, right? Some of the errors that you get when you're first starting, you'll do this a lot. This is like a common error that you'll get when you first start programming. You will forget semicolons. After a while, not very long after you start programming, they become second nature. But until that happens, you're going to write code and you're going to like, oh, okay, I forgot the semicolon. And that can be frustrating, right? All right, so don't forget your semicolons. Another thing that you're going to do is you're going to misspell words, right? So C# is a case-sensitive language, right? When you say console.write a lowercase line, that is not the same as console write uppercase L line, right? Write line. So write line, there is no such thing as write lowercase line. And so we're going to save and we're going to compile and we're going to see. So let's compile again. And it says, okay, we have an error. It says system. Now you'll get this a lot. When you misspell those API method names and property names, when you're first starting out programming, you will get this a lot, right? It'll say test class 613, right? That shows us what position. So here we go, we're in the 13th position. Go back to the console and it'll say error. This gives us an error code, right? You can look those up online. System.console, which is the name, which is the class that we're trying to call this write lowercase line method on. It'll say system.console does not contain a definition for write line. And unless you're, and until you get a deep understanding or a little bit more understanding of the, the importance of the case sensitivity of the language, then you're going to willy-nilly just start programming and, you're going to just type things in and make mistakes. I do it all the time, right? And I'm an experienced programmer. Where I make a mistake, right? There's a difference between making a typo and just not knowing any better, right? And you'll start off and you just won't know any better, right? So that's like one of the big frustrations of learning how to program. There's all these things you got to learn. It's like you got 10 different buckets of different types of knowledge you got to fill up in order to get good at it. The first little bucket is like understanding your computer and how it works. The second little bucket is what language, understanding enough of the language in order to do what you're thinking that you want to do in your mind. And even if you're an experienced programmer in, let's say, Python, you come to C# and the monkey wrench is going to throw right in your face, right? You're going to like, what the heck do I do? I know Python. I know how to get XYZ done in Python. That doesn't mean you know how to get XYZ done in C#. But at least you know how to program, right? If you're new to programming, then you've got the language and you got the whole concept of programming and solving problems with a programming language and taking algorithms and translating them into code. So, if it was easy, you wouldn't get paid so much money to do it, right? That's why you do it. All right. Anyway, compiling programs from the command line. To summarize what you need, very simply, let's go ahead and recompile this and make sure everything works. What you need, test class, we'll run it, R. You need the C#, you need the .NET framework installed on your computer. You need a decent text editor, and once again, I recommend Notepad++. Can't go wrong. Give them some money because it's a good program. And you need to create a source file. Okay, oh, and you need to set your environment variables, right? Set the environment variables after you've installed the .NET framework. If you install Visual Studio, the .NET framework comes with it. Okay, so you're good to go. and then a text editor. So those 3 basic things, right? And then, the fourth thing that you need to do is you need to learn how to program. And that's it. Any other thing would be beating a dead horse. I don't want to beat any dead horses. Thank you for listening. Happy programming. If you have questions and there's something I can specifically help you with, shoot me an email at rick@pulpfreepress.com, and I'll be happy to create a video just for you. Thank you.